corporate level property branding. And I think that it's another one that is hot or cold depending on who you talk to. I love the discussion though, because I think that there are good points on either side. When we have scratched the surface on this one, you've brought some really great points to the table. I'd love to hear what you think about the topic, because granted there is a lot of nuance to it, but kind of dovetailing into where you just landed, what do you think about corporate level property branding?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you just said, there's pros and cons, I think either way, and I think there's a way to do it that can be effective. I understand, like coming from a major brand perspective, big REITs and stuff, and it's like, okay, we want to present our this is like our style apartment. We want. There's a lot of reasons to brand the portfolio wide thing, because for whatever reason, maybe it's a public REIT and they want that out there, like let's call it an Avalon Bay Communities type of thing, and they want everything to be an Avalon because it helps their brand reputation, helps them in the stock market. So like I totally get that aspect, but I think they're leaving money on the table from an individual property basis, because they're again just being kind of generic to more people versus actually having a local brand for that neighborhood or city or town that the property's in, geared to a certain audience, and really driving that. Awareness is not the right word, but driving that love of the property that a certain
Hmm.
demographic would have. So I think there's some element that you could do both of it though. Like you could still do a whatever apartment name by a certain company and doing it in kind of that way that would work. So again, I get both sides of that, but I do believe though if you're not differentiating it on a community by community basis, then you're leaving money on the table on what you could possibly get by really appealing specifically and clearly to a more of a direct core audience for that property.
Yeah, and even on the back end, right? Like if a property went to go, uh, you know, if they're shopping it around to new,
Mm,
capital partners, or they're wanting to sell the property,
yep.
I think one of the things that we talked about too is a potential downside is it lacks the uniqueness to that property, to that city, like you were just referring to, and it's kind of a part of this bigger portfolio, but then does that make it sort of clunky from a purchasing standpoint? Like, oh, I'm buying this one piece of this bigger thing. And what does that mean for me and my, and for my investments? I thought that was a really good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, look, I mean, as you said earlier in the conversation, a good solid brand is an asset. And so if you have a corporate brand that's still the corporate brand of, whatever, manager or REIT or owner out there, when you're selling that, when you're selling the property, you're not obviously selling that, you're losing the value of that asset, or you don't have the
Hmm.
value of that asset to sell along with it. And I think, again, I think part of the I don't know, I call it old school way of thinking or status quo way of thinking about it is that, the brand's not that important, whatever. 123 Main Street, who cares about the brand? It's really just, how we operate the building, and it's just about, all the nuts and bolts. But I would argue that is shifting. I mean, you can even look at this in the bigger ecosystem of like, you see brands that are valuable and really like Apple, everyone uses that as an example, or even Tesla, although maybe that's going off the rails a little bit, but
A little bit.
another story. But people have this connection to this differentiated brands and people that do marketing and have great messaging, and so there's an appeal to that, and there is a value to that, even on a smaller scale. If it's a 50 or 100 or 400 unit community, there's a value there.